It is just a huge honor to have my Sensei Rick Savagian at our home today. He has Mountainside Martial Arts, which, believe it or not, is 38 years old, is the longest running business in all of Ahwatukee, and he started in 1979. He expects all students to become better citizens within their communities and, in a broader sense, their country. Proper respect is expected at all times. The extension of courtesy is a founding principle of his dojo. The philosophy of Mountainside Martial Arts Central is based on the principles and precepts of Wado-Ryu. Uphold the principles of propriety and courtesy. Cultivate the spirit of effort. Perfect a mind of patience. Live the way of truth. Do not lose self-control or act in a violent manner. Sensei Savagian also places a strong emphasis on motor skill development, focus, and balance to enhance one's self-esteem. And he actually taught all four of my boys how to count to 10 in Japanese.
Probably.
Ocho, was it Ocho?
Ich-ni sanshi. Ich-ni sanshi go rokushi hachi-kuju.
Yeah, and I have to tell you another thing about that. Do not let self-control act in a violent manner. People don't believe when I say it, but I raised four boys. You trained them at an early age. Mm-hmm. They have never, ever once laid a hand on each other.
I'm glad we have an influence on that.
They've never punched. They never. If they get mad, they raise their voices.
Good,
but they've never used violence on each other.
Perfect.
And when I was little and grew up, a lot of those big Catholic families, especially a lot of boys. Oh my God, they're always pounding each other in the backyard.
Catholic families, the ethnic families, that's just all part of the culture of how we grew up back then.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just part of pretty much how, it is. And I guess if you didn't have family fights, it wasn't a family maybe. I mean, that was just part of it. And, you have the stories, what serious back then where mom and dad had to break up. Later on in life, they're humorous. Because we're talking about when so-and-so got in a fight with so-and-so, et cetera. And it becomes humorous and which is part of the way of life back then. But obviously society has changed, and they're finding other means of communicating if there's disagreements.
It's still frightening on our society that the number one reason people call 911 in every state since they started is still domestic violence.
Oh, it's awful.
I mean, when I first read that, I thought 911 was, I'm having a heart attack or I just wrecked my car.
Right.
It's domestic violence that dwarfs those.
Yeah. I actually had a situation when I was 17 years of age. I grew up in a hometown called South Milwaukee, Wisconsin. There's like 25,000 people in that city. And I was riding home from my grandparents' house, and I saw a man abusing a woman. It was in front of a bar, because there's a bar in every corner back where I grew up. And she was crying, and I actually went in there to stop this guy from assaulting this lady. I was a black belt at the time, so I wasn't worried about this guy, and he was under the influence of a little alcohol at the time, so that didn't bother me either. So as I pushed him away, made sure she was okay, then I held him back. She actually hit me in the back of the head because she thought I was assaulting her husband. I'm trying to break this fight up. So I had this big lump on the back of my head. I was like, wow. Rode my bike home, and we went to the hospital just get it checked out and everything, told my dad what happened. He just said, when that happens, you got to stay away from that. And police always say it's one of the number one problems they've got is, domestic violence.
And they had to make it so the police could arrest whoever it was because the other spouse,
right,
would never.
Yeah, it's so messed up. I mean, it's just like just because of the fear, And obviously, I've had students where spousal issues like that took place, domestic violence took place. We've actually had to help quite a few women out over the past 38 years here. And even back where I grew up, back in the state of Wisconsin, I was teaching in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Where in Wisconsin?
South Milwaukee is where I grew up.
South Milwaukee. Laverne and Shirleytown?
Laverne and Shirleytown, exactly. Just about, right.
What was the name of that beer they sold?
Well, there's so many.
No, Laverne and Shirley on the
Schlitz or Pabst or I don't remember, but there's a... And I was very young at that point. I didn't really have any alcohol until I went away to school. There was a different story at that point. But even when I was living in La Crosse, Wisconsin, I had a situation where we had a woman that was abused, and we had to help her along, and eventually he came to assault her, and she went after him pretty hard, and I had to go to court to defend this woman because this guy was just very evil. He was actually stalking her after classes, and she would have us walk her out to her car to make sure everything was okay. I mean, there's just a lot of bizarre things like that just take place. It's unfortunate, but it's part of our society.
So are you mostly children or adults, or do you mix children with adults?
Well, when I first started the program, we had 6 students. We started at the community center. I think I had 1 adult or 2 adults and 4 or 5 kids. And I just thought, okay, and the reason I am teaching karate there is because my boss at the time was Bruce Gillum, who was president of the Propriety Development Company. And Bruce said, if I hire you, will you teach kids karate here? I think to myself, okay, I had a successful program back in the Midwest. My focus really here was to train as hard as I could because I wanted to compete overseas. I wanted to compete on an international level. I felt my skill set allowed me to do that. And I just thought, okay, I'll do it, thinking it's never going to last, And so the agreement was I would teach after school, like 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock after the school got Monday, Wednesdays. I figured 6, 7 people, it'll last for a while, whatever. Well, then I went to 12. Then I went to 20. Then I went back down to 12. And I figured, okay, this is where it's going to be. I was very fortunate I fought in Japan in 1984. I'm part of the U.S. team. I get back
on the U.S.
the U.S. karate team.
Nice.
Back in 84. And so this is like 4 or 5 years later. All of a sudden I get back, I've got 45 students. I'm just going, oh, well, so much for having this program not continue. And at that point, it kept growing and growing and growing. And eventually went from the community center to, went to Mountainside Plaza on 40th Street in Chandler. And the owner of the plaza at the time actually recruited me. He said, we'd love to have your business in our plaza. And I asked him why. And he said, because you'd become a destination retailer for us. Everybody in the community knows who you are. We feel the clientele you bring into our plaza would benefit our plaza. So I was very frank with him. I said, I don't think I can afford the rental rate you have here. And he said, just write your own lease. Really? Just write your own lease. So I wrote a 6-year lease that was ridiculous. He looked at it and said, okay, good. When can you start? I said, well, I'm at the community center until January of 1991, I think it was. He said, well, just come now. I'll buy your signage for you. So I'm just thinking, this is kind of crazy. Okay, great. Put the signage up there for me. I was in November of 1990 after being, I don't know how many years at the community center. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And a few months after that, Tom Hatton, who had Mountainside Fitness started in Mountainside Plaza also. And I think it was April of 1990.
What was the intersection of that plaza?
40th Street and Chandler Boulevard.
40th Street and Chandler
With
Boulevard.
the Safeway plazas there and everything. So Tom and I became really good friends, and he started Mountainside Plaza. And I had Mountainside Martial Arts. We were in that plaza for about 5-6 years. It had sold ownership a couple of times. And we didn't like the direction it had gone. So we had purchased the property on the southeast corner of Chandler Boulevard and 32nd Street. He built Mountainside Fitness. I built Mountainside Martial Arts. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then about a year or so after into it, Tom had me at his Christmas party and said, would you be interested in selling me your portion of the building? I want to expand. And I said, well, let's talk about this. So I ended up looking at the property kitty corner from me, which was on the southwest corner. Talked to the developer there. Tom and I did everything on a handshake. When we bought the property, we built everything was on a handshake. I will say he's one of the very first class gentlemen. We bought everything on a handshake. We sold everything on a handshake. You talk about propriety and courtesy, that man had it.
What's his name?
Tom Hatton. And Tom Hatton, Hatten. Mountainside Fitness has just grown immensely all over the valley right now. And I know he's coming back to the valley also, or coming back to the community shortly. So
where's his location right now?
Well, he's got many locations.
No, I mean in Ahwatukee.
I know from my understanding is he's going to come back at 48th and Ray. I think where the old Sports Authority was, in that there.
40th and Sports Authority.
So
where the old Albertsons was.
Right. I'm pretty sure that's where he's going. Is in there.
Wow.
And so that.
How does a guy like that compete against these monsters like LA Fitness?
We talk about the extension of courtesy. He gets it. He puts his clientele first. And he's put so much work and hard effort to what he does that he's made this business grow and grow and grow. And then I think that reputation precedes everything that he does. And so, once you have the reputation, it's more. Once you establish honor, that's all you need. Because honor then just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I think that's what it was. I said, when you can do a business land deal, and we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, and you can do something on a handshake with somebody, and they follow through with it, that's all about their character. And so that was real simple. And as Tom was expanding, he asked me, he says, I've got some other projects. Do you want to build some other karate schools there? And I said, no, I just can't. I can't do that. His situation and mine were completely different. Where as a head instructor, you've got to be at your location all the time, and we have tremendous staff that works for us. But everybody always wants to be with the head instructor and talk with the head instructor. And so to me, I didn't want a chain of karate. I just wanted traditional martial arts.
So right now you're at 3173 East Chandler Boat. So that's 32nd Street in Chandler.
Southwest corner, right behind the Foothills Animal Hospital.
Oh, exactly.
Right.
And which used to be a filling station.
It used to be the 7-Eleven.
The 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Which they're confused with their name because 7-Eleven was their hour 7-Eleven, and
that probably was true.
And
yeah.
So now they're
open 24 hours a day.
Yeah, but so they're really always thinking about how do you rebrand. Everybody knows 7-Eleven, but it's open 24 hours a day. Right. And you know where the name Circle K came from?
No, I don't.
It was he had a huge ranch down in
Carl Eller,
the founder.
Okay.
And that was their branding for the cattle.
Oh, okay.
That was their branding iron, Circle K.
Wow. I didn't know that.
So he started a convenience store, and it's Circle K.
Oh,
so you're behind the 7-Eleven on 32nd Street in Chandler.
Well, yeah, it's Foothills Animal Hospital right now.
Foothills Animal Hospital?
Yeah, Dr. Kurt Baum.
Which was the better neighbor, 7-Eleven or the Animal Hospital?
Well, I'd probably say the Foothills Animal Hospital. The 7-Eleven, people just drove in and out. There was leading out. I've got clientele that go to the vet. And then...
why do you think that 7-Eleven went under?
Oh, I think that had a lot to do with some of the past of 9/11. There were some really crazy things that were going on at that time. And actually, there were some really bizarre things that happened at the time. And I think the people that were running it were a little mischievous. And I think 7-Eleven said they just needed to close it down. Because it closed down just months after 9/11.
Really?
Yeah.
Because someone told me that it might have been because they didn't get a liquor license.
I highly doubt that.
Really?
Yeah. Because the Circle K's got one. I don't know why they wouldn't get one.
Well, a lot of the Circle K's here don't. Yeah.
Maybe the zoning at that time. I know the zoning's like C1. That don't have something to do with it. Oh. But I know they had beer in there.
Well, there's beer and wine.
Right.
That's one license.
Right.
But the hard liquor.
Right.
The Scotch and vodka is not. Like 48th Street and Elliott, across from my dental office, just sells beer.
Okay.
But
yeah, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know from because every time they kept clearing out, I would ask, something going on, and they just said, no, we're just going to restock. We're going to redo our brand. Well, they moved out.
So you started in '79. You were the first business in Ahwatukee?
We started...
first continuous running business.
Right. We were... it was called the Ahwatukee Karate Program at the time, because we were at the community center. And so we ran it as a business. We ran it, as a traditional Japanese school, because the art of Wado-Ryu is a Japanese style. So we taught the traditional style of Wado-Ryu in the school. But it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then I had to expand my classes. And the ironic thing is, a number of years after we started, my boss, Bruce Gilm at the time, wanted to put his daughters in karate with me also. And so he came to a class, and he saw how physical the class was. I thought, oh, he's got these two beautiful young ladies. There's just no way. And he said, this is very impressive. I want to do it with my kids. So my boss at the time, the president of the company, became one of my students. And our relationship grew so much because he understood. He didn't see me as an employee running their facilities, but he saw me as a teacher of how we give back to the community. And the crazy thing is, whenever I needed something, I'd say, Bruce, and he goes, no problem, just take it. It's whatever I wanted at the time, he just let me go with it and run with it. And because that trust just kept enhancing.
So is sensei a Japanese word meaning teacher?
Yes.
Did you know doctor was a Latin word meaning teacher?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Just like Bible is a Latin word meaning book.
Okay. That I knew.
So you're a Japanese teacher.
Right.
Yeah, that is amazing. So you talk when you got here in 1979. How many people do you think lived in Ahwatukee back then? Because today it's 85,000.
You know,
What would you guess it was back then?
Not even 10% of that, because the only route to get out Ahwatukee was Elliott Road.
Yeah.
Warner Road wasn't open.
And you know why Elliott Road was open? It's the same reason that hotel is not part of Ahwatukee or Phoenix, Arizona. It's Maricopa County.
Right.
You know why?
No.
What was that hotel used to be called?
The Grace Inn.
The Grace Inn.
Yeah, Bill Grace.
So Bill Grace asked Phoenix to build an off-ramp, and they told him no. So he built it himself, and that whole off-ramp, the bridge, I mean, that was hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then coming down to 51st Street so he could build his hotel, and he owned that medical dental building where the marijuana dispensary is. So then, years later, what year was it where Phoenix annexed Ahwatukee?
It was probably in the, I want to say, the mid-'80s or so, mid to late 80s. And the reason I know that is because we used to host a lot of 10K races, a lot of 10K, 15K races in Ahwatukee. And one of the things I did with the job was I oversaw the recreational properties. That's why I was really hired. And then expanded to event marketing. In the event marketing that we did is we brought in all these major races. So we received the title Arizona's long distance running capital. And we had 6 events a year. And we had the top 10Ks and 15Ks. And in 81, I think it was, we brought Avon Running, which was huge. It was huge. We had senators and congress people here with this thing. Avon gave me a budget, said, here's your budget, make it happen. Just make it happen. And prior to that, we had, it was called the Circle S or Circle K. It was a food brand at the time. With Channel 5 was a big sponsor, and that was massive. I mean, we only had the one entrance on the community, which is Elliott Road, and we had traffic backed up to Baseline and the freeway getting in the Ahwatukee for the race. We delayed the race an hour and a half to get all the runners in. And we had hot air balloons. I mean, it was nuts. And Avon was so impressed that it just became, we were the place to be. And so what was great was, at the time, we were able to use Maricopa County Search and Rescue Department, the Sheriff's Department. And they were gracious enough to come out, and we always gave them a tremendous donation for their time. When it became from county to city, we couldn't use the Gilbert SAR at all. We had to go to Phoenix Police, etc. Well, we went from a decent contribution to a major contribution, which really it affected the sponsorship packages, because it came thousands and thousands of dollars. And then instead of us being able to put out cones and doing things we had to race for, the city was responsible for doing it. So it kind of
killed it.
It killed it.
Killed it. Good old government.
Yeah, it killed it. And then I know there were water issues too, because they wanted to issue real bad, and all of a sudden the water rates started going up. And so I remember that being an issue at the time too, because they wanted to stay, the company wanted to stay county. I know that, but I think what happened was the city ended up saying, look, you're using our water, so you want to use our water, it's going to cost you a lot more.
So when Phoenix tried to annex that, then they wanted to tax all Grayson's rooms and all that. So he took him to court and he said, you can't annex me. I asked you to develop this freeway. I built the exchange. I built the freeway. I built Elliott Road. Right. And then after I built it with my own money, now you're going to come back and annex it and tax me? And the government agreed, And that's why Grayson, which is now called Four Seasons.
Four Seasons, yeah.
Is not Phoenix, it's Maricopa
Or
County.
4 Points, it is something.
Yeah, 4
like
points.
that. Yeah.
So if you're in 4 Points and you call 911, actually the sheriff goes out.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's why the medical marijuana dispensary went there. I didn't know if they would.
I didn't even know there was one there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's the only one.
You know, because I live out in Club West, and so I'm not really on Elliott Road. And I have a very simple commute from Club West, and my building's like 4 miles. So it's really, so, Monday through Friday, I'm pretty much just between those 2 points, my house and my office. And that's pretty much about what I do. So I don't really get a chance to see a lot of the other aspect. I do drive past the community once in a while. I'll frequent some of the restaurants that are there, and I kind of look at the center and go like, wow, that's kind of where everything started. Swim team, the recreational programs. We built the comprehensive recreational program for Ahwatukee back in '79. That was our foundation, and we enhanced the swim program at the time. They didn't even have starting blocks or lane lines. We got all in. We got sponsors that paid for the kids' swimsuits. So we really built it up really, really well.
You talk a lot in your dojo about honor, trust, character. How did those become so important to you?
I was first and foremost probably the way my parents raised me. My grandfather told me at an early age, regardless of the consequences, always tell the truth. You get to make your choices. You don't get to make your consequences. And so if you tell the truth, regardless of what happens, there's always one answer. If you don't, there's an answer to cover that one, to cover that one, to cover each answer going on. At that point, it's pretty much, it's not true. And so I just think the upbringing from my grandparents, the way my parents raised us, very, very strict level of discipline, was important. Very strong Christian faith, and so what my grandparents, and especially my mother, every Sunday we were in church. My brother had a paper route. Monday through Saturday, it was in the afternoons. Sunday morning, we're up at 2 a.m. delivering papers. We're done by 4:30, up at 7 to go to church. If we couldn't make going to church, the paper route got sold. And we'd be tired like this, and when we served on the altar, it's like, we're just trying to make it through. So I think that foundation.
Huh? What type of church?
It was an Armenian Apostolic Church.
An Armenian Apostolic Church.
Right, so the Armenian language was spoken.
So you speak Armenian?
I used to be very fluent. My grandparents were alive back then. It was pretty much how it was done. So, now I would have to be probably in that surrounding for quite a while for, it to get brought up. Certain phrases I still know if I run into certain people, whatever the case is, but...
One of my dentist friends is Armenian, Willie Acop. Does Acop sound Armenian?
No, it's not. Probably his mother was, his father wasn't, unless the name was changed or something. Oh. So, yeah. But, what happened was, when that genocide took place...
From Turkey?
Yeah. A lot of the
was
Armenians,
that from Turkey or the Ottoman Empire?
Well, actually both. It was the Ottoman Turks that took over. That took over parts of Armenia.
And what year was the...
1915.
1915.
Yeah, my grandparents escaped the genocide. And the stories that they told me were just absolutely horrid. And, when I look at what they went through, that's a very humbling experience right there. So that humility has always been there. And then obviously you get into the martial arts, and you learn about honor and respect in martial arts. I'm just thinking, wow, here I've got, the art started back in China in, years and years and years ago. And here I look at my grandparents, what they went through. So you're putting a lot of the elder statespeople into the picture. And they're all good people. They're just tremendous good people. And you put that together and say, this is an example that I need to follow. And by not following it, it's pretty much goes against everything the way we were raised. And so, I don't want to disappoint my grandparents or my parents. And when we wear the black belt in martial arts, there's 2 names on that belt when I put that belt around somebody's waist. Everything's written in Japanese kanji. You have the student's name on one end of the belt, and then you have the founder, the master's family name on the other part of the belt. I always let people know, do never give shame to the family name. And so it goes not only with the Japanese aspect, but in my family. I don't want to give shame to my family name. And so losing face takes a long time to get back, because it took a long time to build it. But to do something disgraceful, it's like taking a match to a bridge and it's done. And then you got to rebuild it, and sometimes it can never be rebuilt. So just knowing that they're in the back of my mind at all times. I have a tremendous teacher named Toshi Osaka, and the honor and respect that I've learned from him, and him giving me opportunities to do things in Japan with other Japanese masters that other Americans have never had the opportunity to do. I'm very blessed and fortunate, that takes place. So I've always got someone looking over me, whether they've passed away or they're still on the ground. And then at that point, you as a teacher, you have to then instill that to your students. So you're an example, to the students. And so, you have to behave in what you do. One of the things, Howard, that I will never do is I have a rule. I don't party in my backyard. I learned this when I was going through school. And what I mean by that is, because I'm teaching children, I have to be very careful when I'm in this community of the things that I do. So if I do socialize at a high level, I prefer doing it out of the state of Arizona, whether I'm going to the coast, see my friends in California, go back to the Midwest. But when I'm here in the home state, I try to be careful. You just don't know.
Well, remember, Grayson is not part of Phoenix.
I know.
It's Sedgwick County.
I know.
Or Sedgwick
I
County.
just got to be careful with that.
It's amazing how you can lose your lifetime reputation in 5 minutes. My dad went to Mass every day. He's a very devout man, and he had a Sonic drive-in. That's what my dad's business was.
Yeah.
And it was funny when he'd be talking to those kids, he said, if you don't believe in Jesus, that's good too. Then just believe in the Sunday paper.
Right.
Because when you're doing something, if you don't want to see it on the Sunday Wichita Eagle and Beacon paper with your picture there doing it, then just don't do it.
I think there's something to be said about the Midwest values, the way we grew up. I think, it's in talking about, I'm going to go back to Tom Hatton for a second. Tom grew up in the Minnesota area, and I'm in the Wisconsin area. And he hired a lot of people from Minnesota in the beginning because of those Midwest values. So I think those Midwest values, my wife's from the Midwest.
Where's she from?
She's from Minnesota, South Dakota area. So it's incredible how we are attracted to that, but it's the values, that you're attracted to. And so I think a lot of the success of the business sometimes it comes from those values. How do you serve with honor?
How do you teach honor, trust, and character with karate?
You do it by example. So in other words, when I'm teaching a student, I'm showing respect to the students at all times. I also have a real simple rule. I'm not public education. I'm a private school. I allow no entitlement, no enabling, no excuses, and no explanations. If the parent and the student understand that, we're getting along just great. If they don't, I'm not their teacher. I also explain to them, I'm your friend. I'm not your friend, I'm your teacher. If we get that under control, great. I have no contracts in my school. I don't believe in I feel contracts will protect the weak. No bell fees, no test fees for my beginning students, because you're here to earn it. It's not to be bought. When you can run a business for 38 years and you don't have to sign a piece of paper, I think that tells the clientele the longevity, speaks about their sincerity. And we have to practice that. I'll never forget, coming out of high school, I took an educational psychology class. Dr. Nicholas Topetsis at Marquette University. And I didn't do really well in high school psychology, and my answer was, no, take this class. I said, it's a junior ed psych class. I had a hard time with high school psychology. He goes, just take this class. So I'm taking this summer class, going to get some credits before I go away to lacrosse. Staunch Greek professor comes down, he's slapping hands. He's 5 minutes late. And the best teacher I ever had, phenomenal teacher, it was a 90-minute class, met 2 days a week. The first 45 minutes were humor. I mean, I'm bawling my eyes out just taking down notes. The next 45 minutes was serious. You never wanted the class to stop. I got an A in the program. I'm going, how do I get an A in this ed psych class? In a junior college level, I couldn't even barely get a C in my high school. He said something that I'll never forget. He says, good teaching results in good grades. If you're a good teacher, your students should get good grades. I never forgot that. And I thought, you know what? I got an excuse if I ever get a bad grade in school. And so my parents, well, according to Dr. Petsis, this is it. But I knew someday if I was going to be teaching, the shoe was on the other foot. That kept me motivated to always remember, teach with honor, teach with respect, and do your homework, continue your education. And as long as you're in your education, you'll remain humble because you're going to make mistakes. Learn from those above you, because those you above you, who you will most likely attract, want you to succeed. And so it just follows through from that situation. And the idea of I'm a very competitive person. I love competition, almost to a fault sometimes. But we make our students compete, not only at a local level, state level, national, but also at the international level. And we've had tremendous athletes from our community that have medaled in international competition. But I always tell them, the medal around your neck is not stronger than the medals inside your body. Because the medal inside your body is what's going to make you a better person and give back to the community. That medal you wear around your neck, or the trophy you get, is going to collect dust. It's just there. But the medal you can instill in the future generations, that will be for a lifetime. And that's just the philosophy we've adapted to.
When you think of honor, trust, and character, you and I are, I'm 55 years old. In your lifetime, do you think there's less of that in society today than it was when we were born in the 60s?
I hate to say this, but that's probably true. And it's sad because the students that I get a chance to work with, majority of them still feel how we feel. Einstein said, the minute technology takes over, we're going to raise a bunch of idiots. He's right. And I think what happens at this point, we've made things easier. The generations, like, I'll take an example from when my grandparents are around. They wanted to make their life easier for their children. They didn't want them to go through the same pain and suffering. Then our parents wanted to do the same thing with our generation, and on. The situation, we've made things easier, and if we've made things easier, then all of a sudden things are taken for granted, and why focus on it? If you look at simple basics and fundamentals, a calculator for us in school is called cheating. Today you have to have a calculator, all right, when you take classes. So I think some of the basics and the fundamentals we've gotten away from. One thing I'm very proud about our school, fundamentals and basics are still there. And I always tell everybody, look, I may not be your favorite person, and you may not like the way I'm teaching, but here's the reality of it. I'm not forcing you to stay. If you believe in the way that I was raised, in the way that the true martial arts is, and you get it, you'll stay here. So, do I want 1,000 students? No. The number we have, tremendous, it's great. If we can develop those individuals, and they can just more or less spread out the word, make it happen from there, it's great. I'm just proud of the students that understand those basics and fundamentals, because I hear from them a lot, when they've gone through major, academic programs, whether it's the Air Force Academy or whether it's Arizona State University or Duke University or wherever they go. I've had hundreds of students go all over the world to train and study. I hear from those students, and I always hear that the basics and the fundamentals from karate, they still practice, and those things that they practice have made them successful in what they do. And those who didn't get it, well, there's nothing you can do about it.
But when you think of honor, trust, and character, when we were little, the newsman was revered as honor and trust, and Walter Cronkite and Brinkley and those guys.
Right.
And now it's fake news.
Right.
And now when you're on social media, you see these headlines, but you see the name of the company. It's like, I talk to people. It's like people they almost don't trust any news source. They think CNN is like a arm of the Democratic Party and Fox is an arm of the Republican Party. And do you think social media, like Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, have kind of brought down trust?
Yeah. Well, I think what you see on Facebook and Twitter today is something very, very demeaning to our society. I think our society, in some aspects, those individuals, I feel that are sometimes less educated, they for some reason want attention. And this is the way to get attention. I think those people who understand, respect, and honor, they're very secure with themselves. They don't need to always, tweet, whatever the case is. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because I think sometimes it is important, to bring out the truth in some, to counterbalance some of the stuff that's not true that's out there. So I don't tweet.
But you're on Twitter. So your website is
MountainsideMartialArts.com.
MountainsideMartialArts.com.
Right.
At Twitter, he's at MNTN Side Martial. But so what are they going to find if they go to MountainsideMartialArts.com?
Well, if they go to our website, you're going to find out. You're going to see what our facility looks like. You're going to find out our, the masters that we've trained with, that I've trained with, and you're going to find it's a very traditional Japanese martial arts school. We speak Japanese in class. So if a student trains with me, when they go from a white belt to a black belt, their entire examination's in Japanese. There's no English, none. And we bring our Japanese master in, so when the exam is taking place, showing respect to the master and the art, it's all in Japanese. When we train overseas, everything is in Japanese. So the students, the only difference between training at Mountainside Martial Arts or saying we're going to Nihon University in Japan to train is the flight. That's it. The geography. The training, the terminology is all the same. The students adapt to it. There's no issues with it. If we have Japanese masters that come in that are frequent once in a while, they speak English, my students are going like, what are they talking about? So I have to tell the masters, you need to speak Japanese to my students, or they won't understand what you're talking about. And they just think that's tremendous. It's tremendous. So when the students see that to those masters, I think that takes them to the next level of honor and respect. I really believe that.
I took 3 of my 4 boys. The oldest one's married with kids, but I took 3 of my 4 boys. When did we go to Tokyo, Ryan? Was it last year, a year and 2 months ago? I mean, it just seems like Japan and Singapore have so much more cultured respect and clean, and there's no graffiti.
Oh, unbelievable.
It really makes, when you go to Japan and you come back to the United States, it makes you realize that it's almost like the inmates took over the asylum in the United States.
I frequent Japan. You got, I don't know how many million, 20 million people in Tokyo, whatever. It's okay. Yeah. There's not one bicycle that's got a lock on it.
I know.
You can go to a department store on a rainy day, put your umbrella in the umbrella rack, go through the store. You come out, it's sunny. Let's say you forget your umbrella. It's there 2 days later to pick it up. I take my students here to understand the extension of courtesy. I mean, it is just unbelievable. When I'm there, it's difficult for me to come home.
Yeah.
Because of the respect and everything. Tipping is not allowed in Japan. You can't tip there. It's an insult to them. It's just part of the way they do their business. When I'm traveling, if I'm traveling on the trains or the subway or whatever the case is, and I pretty much know my way around all of Tokyo and the outskirts. But sometimes you get off at a train station and you have to go out of the building like maybe 6 blocks or something to catch another train. And I'm thinking, I'm lost. So I'll speak a little Japanese to some individual there. They will actually walk you out of their way to that station and make sure that you have the right yen to get on, and make sure that you got there, and they'll walk you through it. I remember in 2002, we were in Tokyo, and I spent a few more days there. And as we were leaving, I remember we went to the Hard Rock Cafe in Tokyo. We had a day off, and we came out and we couldn't find the substation. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, here I am. And so I went to a Japanese gentleman. He actually took us to the station. He rode us from that station to where we had to get off, made sure we got at a hotel, and then went back on. I wanted to reimburse. He said no. Now, probably 45 minutes to an hour out of his way. And you look at this, and my friends are simply like, wow, It's incredible. I said, this is the way it should be. But that culture, they're so polite. They're so wonderful people. I mean, they're so giving. It is,
and the cleanliness.
Oh, everything clean. You will not find anybody eating food or drinking on the streets. You won't see it. They don't do that. I mean, and you don't see waste paper baskets on the street because there's nothing to throw on, when you're walking through the different areas of Tokyo. And so that's just part of the culture. They don't talk when they're on the trains. They don't talk.
You go look at all the subways and trains in America, they're just covered in graffiti.
Yeah.
And then inside, people just leave all their trash and newspaper and food.
Right, not there.
You go to Japan, it's
There's
like...
pride.
And Singapore's the same way.
Right. The discipline, because the penalty is very severe. So maybe a lot of the problems are, maybe our laws are just too laxed here. We give, the first offense, the second offense, the third offense. Over there, you get in trouble, done. They don't care. I mean, they're very, very strict with you, which I think is tremendous because, again, that's the focus and discipline of what they've got. Now, they have some youth. Sometimes I like to retaliate. Well, that's all part of being young. But, they're pretty much put in their place after a period of time.
So what are the top 3 reasons someone joins your dojo?
Well, if we go from let's put from the children, most of it will be a self-esteem situation where they want their kids to not be bullied, in school or whatever. And so the question I will say to them, like, so how do you acquire self-esteem? And they say, well, we hear karate is the best thing for it. I'm saying, okay, so what is it about karate? And they're going, well, we just heard about the discipline. What they don't understand is called motor skill development. I'm very big my background is exercise physiology. So when you can develop fine and gross motor skill development, the student then becomes more in tune to their body. And when they're more in tune to their body, that's when all of a sudden they have better focus and better balance. Then the self-esteem grows and enhances from there. Because once they know their body can do certain things, then their mind eventually develops with it. So that makes it really easy then for the student to get better. Some kids, we have our ADD or ADHD, and karate has been, as an antidote, has helped them to focus and get things, from that situation. And I think a lot of them just, the parents just say, you know what, we like the culture, we like what it does. Maybe we weren't able to do it when we were young, but I want my children involved because of all the positive they hear from it. Now, then you go, let's say, to the adults. Adults will take it, number one, because it's something I always wanted to do. I've always been enamored watching karate, kung fu or Bruce Lee, etc. It's something I always wanted to do. So you get that individual that wants to do it. You have some, probably a lot with the women, I just want to be able to protect myself because of how insane things are out there. Take people getting beat up and abused. And then you get some adults that just say, you know what, my kids are doing it, my grandkids are doing it, I want to do something with them together. It happens from there. But I think a big thing is with the professionals that we get, stress release. Because they can have a real hard day at work, and they come in, they can blow everything off, and their mind is completely stress-free. And I think, especially with a lot with our older clientele, we see that quite a bit. And they become family.
What are your hours? Or your classes schedules?
Our teaching schedule goes Monday through Thursday from 4 to 8.
4 to 8 p.m.?
Yeah, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. During the school year. And then Saturdays twice a month, we go from 9 to noon. And on our Saturday program, Howard, we have a young lady named Emily Thornton, who was a graduate from Desert Vista High School. She was a 2-time national champion at 15 and 16 years of age, the youngest woman national champion in the Wado-Ryu system in the United States at that time. She went to NAU. She's now doing NAU Phoenix for physical therapy. She's developed a tremendous, we call it sports therapy, a strong core program, which we've seen our students really enhance. Their athleticism is really enhanced by what she's done. On Friday, we have individual lessons. We go from 4 to 6. And then we have our competition team twice a month that goes from 6 to 8 for the athletes that like competing at the local, state, and international levels. So Monday through Thursday, I really preach a lot of the art aspect. Friday and Saturday's more of the sport emphasis that we put into it. Even though some of the Wednesday free sparring, there's the sport part is put that into it. So we want that person to be very, very comprehensive, what they're doing. So, and the good thing is all ages are doing it. And I truly admire all ages do it.
What's your oldest student?
My oldest student is 62 years old. I have two 62-year-olds.
Come on, 70-year-old Tukey. There's so many retired people in Ahwatukee.
Yeah.
You should go to the Ahwatukee Rec Center and put some.
I did that a while back, a number of years ago. And I was helping this lady out, and all of a sudden her skin was like, I touched her skin, all of a sudden she started like bleeding, going, oh my goodness, because obviously the skin wasn't, and I kind of like freaked me out a little bit.
One of the things I always thought was the hardest about your class and everything is it just seems like girls could do the splits easier than guys. When you're trying to learn throw kicks, it just seems are boys just born less flexible than girls? I mean, you see those girls just.
Well, girls are more mature than boys are at an early age.
They would kick over your head. I mean, God, are they more flexible? Do you think they're genetically more flexible?
I think it depends on the genes of the family. I mean, I just think whatever you have historically in your family will sometimes follow with that. I think the girls.
Did you know my dad was short, fat, and bald?
No, mine wasn't either. I think if there's like a lot of gymnastics that's the girls will take at an early age. Some of the tumbling aspect. Boys want to play basketball and football. They could care less about stretching. But the girls are in dance, in gymnastics early age. So I think that has something to do with it. But we have a lot of guys that are very, very flexible.
But if somebody joined your class and they were 40, they haven't stretched in 20 years. Okay. Can they get flexibility back?
Well, they'll get it to a certain point, as far as the human body will allow them to. But will it enhance? Yes, we can enhance it. Just by... One of the things I always say is, like if we're throwing kicks and punches, the habit people, they'll throw a punch and they stop it with themselves. No, don't stop your punch. Let your body stop your punch. So when you're moving, we call rice lines, kicking and punching up and down. Let your body tell you when to stop. Don't you stop it. If we throw a block, some people block and they'll stop. No, now we're contracting our shoulder area. Just go nice and loose, and eventually the shoulder blades opens up, and those muscles become more flexible that way. If you couldn't do splits at an early age in life, and whether it's your youth, your teens, or maybe your early 20s, and you've never done it, don't expect when you're 40 to do splits because probably most likely it's not going to happen. So you need that flexibility at an early age. But that doesn't mean you can't throw a high kick or a high punch or drop down and throw a kick or punch. So over time, if you're repetitive with that, little by little, we can work it with you. And we apply a lot of the kinesiology science to the art, which I think has helped our longevity and has minimalized injuries in our program. 95% of my students get hurt outside the school. And I mean for the dumbest, stupidest things in the world. So martial arts, age is nothing. Gender means nothing. Your size means nothing. And I'm 63, so 23 years ago, we had Japanese master Tatsu Suzuki, one of the world-renowned Japanese masters of the world. I met him when I was in Japan, training there with the Nichida University, which is the karate school in the world in Japan. And he came to the States, and I hadn't seen him in a number of years. And he ran a brutal. His classes were brutal. I mean, it was. You went in there coming out, you felt it. Your ribs were sore, your body was sore, but you knew going into it that that's what you wanted. And I just loved it. I mean, I craved that. And so he comes off the plane. He's 66 now. And he's walking really old and real slow like this. I'm thinking, oh, good, it's not going to hurt so much this time. It's just not going to hurt. How you doing? Oh, good to see you, Rick. It's been like 10 years since we talked or whatever. And so we're going to run 3 seminars. One's going to be in my friend's place in Scottsdale. One's going to be in Chandler at my place. And so we go out for lunch and everything. And we're in Scottsdale. My friend Ray Hughes said, would you mind being a demonstrator? No, not a problem, whatever. So we've got about 150 people in this clinic. 80 of them are black belts. He's 66 years old. And he's telling me he's going to throw a reverse punch in my body. And then I'm going to do what's called taisobaki. I'm going to sidestep the movement and then throw a punch right here and pull it. So he's speaking Japanese. Hi. So we're in the stance, and he just nails me. I mean, just hammers me right in solar plexus. I'm going, oh gosh, and I'm like, oh. And he said, move when I punch. And I'm thinking, so if I saw it, hi. And you could see all these faces just going, jaws dropping. He nailed me 12 straight times before I could move. 12. And it hurt. It was like a pin going in your body, just penetrating and penetrating and penetrating. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And he said, Rick, he goes, you're too slow. I goes, hi, I'm too slow. I need to work on my training. And all the black belts go like, we are not volunteering out there. 3 days, 5 hours a day. I was a recipient of getting beat up, a man who was 66 years old, 26 years older than me. Now I know I'm fast. He's lightning fast. When we got done, I literally had welts hanging from my body. I mean, I was physically beat up. Got him on his plane, made sure he got to Salt Lake City, see my mask, whatever the case is. I'm working out on the treadmill, trying to get this lactic acid out of my body. And my wife says, so why'd you let him hit you? Because I didn't let him hit me. I couldn't escape. She said, really? I said, really? That day, I said to myself, age is not an excuse. Age is an inspiration. So I got another 2.5 years in my life to get to that speed because I want to be as fast as he was. And I worked my butt off on my fast twitch and my punches because that, I'll never forget how hard that punch hit. And the good thing is he told my instructor, Master Osaka, whatever, and he said, he says, most guys will quit after a day or so, but Rick, he was there for like 3 days. He just wanted to get beat up. And my teacher goes, well, he understands the Japanese philosophy. If you die, you always die going forward. And I was not going to lose that honor, And so I have a silver medal in my office of when I coached the U.S. team to the silver medal in 1999. But that's behind my credenza. The picture of the master who beat the heck out of me for 5 days, that's closer. So getting beat up by a legend is more important to me than that medal, coaching the team, because I will never forget how fast he was and the pain he inflicted, But it's a story. It's my story. I get to live it the rest of my life.
Was Bruce Lee the greatest?
Well, I think it just depends who you talk to. I mean, there's so many great masters out there that aren't on television or in the movies.
But he really promoted the sport.
He promoted sport big time.
I don't think anybody promoted it more than
him
Bruce
and
Lee.
the Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid.
When Karate Kid came out, karate just went through the roof.
Did it really?
Oh yeah.
Wax on.
No, it went. And Mr. Miyagi was taught by.
You kind of look like the Karate Kid.
I'm trying not to.
You kind of look like him.
Like, really?
Yeah.
The kid or the teacher?
The kid.
Okay. That Mr. Miyagi was taught by Sensei Fumio Demura out of California. So he scripted a lot of that, the action, what was done. And Mr. Sensei Demura is a very, very good friend of mine. And when he did Karate Kid 3 or 4, they were going to Hawaii. I was asked if I would go to Hawaii and be part of that movie. Unfortunately, at the time, I was still working for the Presley companies in my job, which I had to be there for 6 months. I said, I appreciate the honor. I said, but I don't think my boss is going to give me 6 months off work, and I don't think my students would appreciate it if I was gone for 6 months.
I didn't even know they had a 2, 3 to 4. I thought they just had Karate Kid, but it turned out to be a franchise. Huh?
Yeah.
Another thing that's on a lot of parents' minds is concussions.
Right.
And it's kind of bizarre. I mean, football is the obvious one, and everybody's talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed there are some professional ex-NFL players in Ahwatukee who won't let their little boys play football.
Right.
Because of that.
Right.
And then some people think it's football, but actually soccer.
Soccer, too. They don't want you to allow using
Yeah, they're sitting there bouncing their head.
Right.
I mean, volleyball, it's the forearms.
Right.
What do you think of the concussion in karate?
Well, we've taken a very proactive approach on that. And actually, I'm a licensed USA Safe Sport instructor, which means I go through all NICS clearance, to become a Safe Sport instructor. And I'm also a licensed USA referee. So which we are part of the governing body of the United States National Karate Federation, which is under the guidance of the USOC. Karate is going to be Olympics in 2020. And it is a traditional martial arts that we teach that it's that part of that governing body that's going to allow karate to be in the Olympic Games. Now, they, with all their young students, young athletes, they're encouraging you to wear the safety helmets, which I'm totally in favor of. And the helmets have very good protective gear, so that the idea that once you come close to that helmet, if you barely touch the helmet, we give the warning to the student, to be careful. This is a warning. The helmet and the way the padding in the structure is designed, the ones that we have, we are the helmets from, it's from Mizuno in Japan, that protects the students, their face, from concussions and whatever the case is. Now, if you get some student completely out of control that wants to throw a hard roundhouse kick to the head to knock the person down, we just make sure we have the protocols to make sure the student's okay. The other person's pretty much disqualified. And
so
just
you're not allowed to go to the head now?
You can go to the head, but we don't allow full contact. This is bizarre. A roundhouse kick with a light tap to the head, to the helmet, is accepted. A hard shot with the fist to the head is unacceptable. Now, can you go to the face of the head? Yes. If you hit it hard, you're penalized.
So you go to the head to score.
Right.
So you're going to score. I just got to tap.
Right.
I'm not going to the head.
This is
you.
to the advanced level. Now, the beginner intermediate level, no, it's got to be 10 centimeters from the face to score.
10 centimeters
from the face.
Come on, I'm an inches boy. I don't.
Well, okay.
What is 10 centimeters?
Well, times 2.54. 2 inches, 2.54 equals 1 centimeter. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
an inch is 2.54 centimeters.
Right.
So it'd be about 4 inches.
Right. And so guess what? You have to train a lot. Understand your Mma, which is your focus, to establish that technique.
So, you and I, we've seen a lot of businesses come and go in Ahwatukee.
Yeah.
Do you think? Why do you think so many businesses have come and gone in the last 30, 40 years?
Well, I think some of our, we used to have some of the bookstores here. All of a sudden, the bigger chains came in, so that put them out of business. I think some of the local restaurants we had, bigger chains came in. I think that put them out of business. Maybe some people, as the community became more popular, sometimes some of the businesses couldn't afford the rent, the lease expenses of the rent. Maybe some people just said after so many years, they just want to do it part-time, whatever. Maybe the market didn't call for people. I knew a person that wanted to open up a real nice bakery shop. They specialize in the bakery goods. But how many of those bakery goods you got to sell to make your rent work, number one, versus going to Safeway or Fry's or any in the local stores and buying a donut, they're a lot cheaper. And I just think maybe sometimes they didn't have the right business practice or the business mind to go in there. Sometimes you can't let your enthusiasm overtake your intelligence. And I think sometimes if that happens, you find yourself at the wrong end of the stick.
I mean, I can't even name. I'm in that Safeway center.
Right.
I mean, I got there with Safeway and Walgreens was there.
Right.
The National Bank.
Right.
I mean, I can't even name all the companies that have come and gone in 30 years.
Yeah.
And now, do you think Amazon's having a huge pack?
Oh, I think Amazon, eBay, definitely. And if you're looking like a lot of your major sporting goods shops, they're doing online stuff also. So I think if you think like, for example, like Golfsmith, perfect example. People can go to Golfsmith and whatever case, look at clubs or whatever, and they'll see what Golfsmith's going to charge. And they can go online and I can just get this thing on eBay for a wholesale price and avoid it. So I think that's true with a lot of stores that did that. So some of these stores that you can go to the store, look at it, and obviously, they've got overhead and run their facilities. But if they go on the website, it's going to, with Amazon delivering to your house, now free of charge. I mean, there's no taxes on some of the stuff at times. It's free delivery. I think that's obviously going to hurt, that type of a business. Fortunately, you can't learn karate from a book or a movie, and you can't buy me on Amazon. So from our standpoint, I'm saying with you can't go to Amazon and have dental work done. You have to see that professional in that area. So those expertises, I think, will always be there. But I think from the retail standpoint, you know, you just have so much access up with the internet to buy things at a better price.
Speaking of access, you're down there on the southwest corner of 32nd and Chandler Boulevard,
Right.
which is now going to get on an entrance to the new 202.
Well, it's a 50-50. I don't know if it's a positive thing. I know they're talking about it, but I don't know if it's actually taking place. But they're
going to have 3 entrances into Ahwatukee.
Right.
Well, first of all, what do you think of that whole 202 issue?
We're not gonna be the cul-de-sac that we used to be at all. I've had mixed issues with it because I live in Club West. I love the quietness of living in Club West. I mean, the reason my wife and I go out there is because the golf course is by us. It's the mountains. It's serene. I love the serenity of it, of living there. Now with the freeway going in, it's going to give access from the west side to our community. So in some ways, we're going to be exposed to it. All right. Now, the pros and the cons. Probably going to lose that serenity that we had. From a business standpoint, people that are in Levine that would come to me or other parts of the valley, if it's a 15, 20-minute drive now for them, it obviously benefits our business from that standpoint. And so we'll see what the next couple of years is like. I mean, we're very busy. Chandler Boulevard right now is a very busy street. I really believe that even when the 202 comes in, I think Chandler will be a very busy street also. I don't think the traffic will be less on Chandler when the 202 comes in. I think it'll be either equal to or busier because I think those people who don't want to go on the freeway are going to go past our retail spot anyways.
What did you think of the fact that they had to tear down houses in church to build that whole 202?
That was, you know, it's sad.
When it was across the street from
Yeah, I mean, it's sad to see a beautiful church go away. I mean, that's hard because now I drive by and I'm like, the church is no longer there. Those people's homes that live there, I've had some of my clientele who've had to move. Their reaction was, well, we're glad it happened because we got more value for our house. Now we get a nicer house because of what ADOT paid them to move. You know, so those are just the ones I haven't met anybody who didn't live there, you know, who did live there that was upset with it. Now, you read a lot of things about it, and you know, your home is your home, and you don't want your home. You're here one day, and your home is gone. So it's a mixed review of you know, those who are happy to move because they got better money, they can have a nicer house. I'm happy for them. Those who lost it, obviously, I have a lot of empathy for what they had to go through.
Why do you think they didn't build it on the empty field on the other side?
Oh, I just think, I mean, I don't know the politics of it, but it seems like the healers didn't want it there. I don't know. I mean, obviously, from hearsay back and forth, I guess they were upset maybe with certain things, you know, when they had certain entrances going, you know, when the casinos were going up off the interstate, etc. You know, I don't really have the facts on something like that. But I do believe that now with Club West being sold, I think the person that bought it knows he's got access not coming from the West Valley. Knows he's going to be able to get water, I think, probably from the wells. Made a viable sale for him. And now, instead of just people from the Ahwatukee area doing it, you know, people from the west side coming to it also. And I honestly believe that we're going to see retail, I think, on the other side of the 202 as it gets developed. So that drive right now on Pecos, it's sort of barren. I think when the 202 goes in, it goes on 59th Avenue. I think, this is just a guess, I believe there's going to be other retail and things going on the other side of it. I really do. Because they're going to capitalize like the 101 in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you are so nice to come by my house and give an hour of your time to talk to all the good people of Ahwatukee. You are such a legend. You're one of the 1,000 points. No, you are. You are. I mean, hell, you've been here 38 years. Like I say, the longest running business. I mean, how many students have come and gone through your dojo in 38 years?
11,000.
11,000. And in a city that only has 85,000.
Yeah. So
that's 1 in 8 people in Ahwatukee have walked through your door at one time.
You know, I'm real fortunate because the way the position happened, working for the Presley companies, was I was promised a job out here when I moved out here. And then when I came out here, we laid the groundwork of how we're going to make this position happen. And then I find out they took my ideas and they hired somebody for less pay who took my ideas. I was like, wow. And then another position opened up and developed that program, and they said, well, we really can't afford to hire you and the person we want to hire also. So this is one of those things where I'm at the airport in the kiosk and I see this thing from Ahwatukee, and door closed, door opened. And then I had a tremendous boss in Bruce Gillum, who was the president at the time, give me the opportunity to, to do the event marketing and run the community center, and say, I want you to teach karate to the kids here. So the amazing thing is, regardless of my educational background, my karate got me my first position out of college, and it got me my first position when I moved to Arizona, and now it became my livelihood on a full-time basis. So one of the dads once said to me, he said, you get to wear your pajamas all day and yell at kids. And I said, you're right, and you're paying me to do it. So it's a pretty good gig.
What is this big ring?
Oh, this ring is...
looks like a Super Bowl ring.
It is... I've been on the festival committee for over 30 years. And I was game ops chairman for the festival for a number of national championship games. And so a number of years ago, they let the committee members and some of the chair people opportunity to get a ring, and this is from the one national championship game.
Was Ahwatukee Tim and Eric Crown on that committee? Tim and Eric Crown of Insight.
They weren't on the committee. They were a major sponsor. Insight was a major sponsor. I don't know if I think Tim might have been on our board. I don't recall. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, Insight was a big sponsor for us.
And he's also on the board of the private school Tesseract.
Well, yeah, I don't know if he still is or not. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I know he built that building. He helped fund that building, made that building take place, yeah. So he might still be on that board.
I noticed his name was still on the website.
And it is.
Yeah, last time I looked. But thank you for all that you've done for me and my four boys, and thank you for all that you've done for all the children.
Well, I appreciate you having me here, and it's been a pleasure to serve this community. Every time I think I want to slow down, it just keeps getting busier and busier. That's a problem. You get excited about it because you see a lot of the families, you see the enhancement growing. But my wife has said you need to put a plan to eventually relax, and then we're building a foundation with the youth eventually run Mountainside Martial Arts.
Nice, and I hope this local social Tukeetown can kind of restore some honor, trust, and character in social media.
I hope so too. And again, we welcome everybody to come by, visit our school anytime you want. Ask all the questions you'd like to ask. Feel free to observe a class or two. If there's any way we can help you and enhance any part of your life, mind, body, that's what we're here for.
And it's so cool that he doesn't have a contract. I've noticed that in dentistry. In dentistry, there's all kinds of these dental consultants that are going to come in and do this. And half of them make you sign a contract and commit for a year or two.
Right.
The other half are like, well, if you don't like my services, I want you to stop. I don't want you to have to see me every month for a year.
Well, you don't want unhappy people, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, when schools sign people to a contract, a lot of them go to business because they become very complacent. Because if they know they got the money coming in, why would they want to work? They just show up. So I think they become complacent. And I've seen 19 schools come and go since I've been here.
In Ahwatukee?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And literally, we end up getting some of their students down the road.
So why do you think they came and went 19 times and you're still there?
I think knowledge. I don't think they have the knowledge that we have. I don't think they can adapt to the clientele, the demographics of the clientele. I think they're that hardcore, gruff, rough mentality. And I just think a lot of their basics and fundamentals are weak.
Has MMA been good for the sport or bad for the sport?
I'm not an MMA fan.
But okay, you're not an MMA. Okay.
Right.
Why?
I think when you If you take the traditional, I'm a traditional martial artist. I like the tradition of the martial arts. I think sometimes when I see how it's abused, I just think the mentality, of it is just something. What's the purpose of the MMA or boxing? Simple, to give a person a concussion. I just think that's inhumane. Karate is not to give a person. We teach point sparring. We're not here to give a concussion to anybody. We're here to teach someone to protect themselves. Now, if you got to protect themselves from somebody, if I got to give a concussion that way on the street, that's something else. But a sport to literally beat somebody in the head, okay, what's going to happen to that person when they're in their 40s or their 50s? Parkinson's, right, is one of the syndromes.
Well, it is absolutely crazy. It's one thing to break a foot or a hand or a knee.
Right.
But your brain?
Really? Yeah.
Really? Your brain?
Right.
I'd rather get my hand amputated than destroy my brain.
Right. If an individual wants to go through that in their life, that's their prerogative. They can do that. But I think when you're doing it at an early age, you're not thinking about 20 or 30 years from now.
Right.
You just think you're going to think that you're indestructible. It's not going to happen to you. Reality catches up with you after a while. As a competitor, I had certain injuries. I'm very fortunate. I never lost my teeth. I did have my nose broken once. My fault with one of my own students because I had my hands down and I was goofing around. My mistake. So fix that really quick. Probably took maybe a headshot once in a while. Did CAT scans, make sure everything was okay. But I realized there was a certain point in time that you better stop. Because if you're going to teach this art, you better be conscious of what you're doing. And seeing some of the older Americans that were very hardcore competitors that probably should have stopped at a certain age but didn't, their arthritis, things that happened to them, I'm going I don't want to do that. I love karate and I love to play golf. I'm an avid golfer. I've got a great teacher. His name is Ben Weeks. Ben's been working with me for over 20-some years. Still got my cases. If I can't grip a golf club, I'm not a happy camper. So I had to know when to stop. Develop your athletes, let them do the demonstrations for you. But the MMA and the UFC, I look at those people. I'm just going like, oh my goodness, they have no idea what's going to happen to them years down the road, and it's going to be sad.
I love that line. If I had known I was going to live this long, I would have taken care of myself.
Right.
All right, buddy.
All right,
thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.